For sports in 98.5, the Sports Hub, Beasley Media Group Station.
Wilson to Protus. Hampus Lindholm denies a centering pass. Middlestat gets it ahead. Arvidsson's on a break. Arvidsson shoots, scores! Victor Arvidsson gets the Bruins back into the lead.
You know, they're talking about a contract extension for Victor Arvidsson. Been a good player for the Bruins this year. And his goal was ultimately the difference today, a 3-1 win for the Bruins. That breakaway goal put them ahead for good. I mean, Bruins were at home today. What else would you expect? They win at home, they lose on the road. They haven't won on the road since mid-January. They're headed on the road tomorrow against Pittsburgh. So I'm not here to tell you how to make your bets, but second day of a back-to-back going on the road after the Bruins kind of grind their way through this one today. Not sure I like them tomorrow, but I like them coming into this one today, and I guess they proved me right on that. 3-1 win for the Bruins, and that's where we start today. It's Matt McCarthy. Hi, how you doing? Hanging out until 6 o'clock if you're headed back from the game. We got phone lines open for you at 617-779-0985. Thank God we are out of February. February, once the Super Bowl is over, it is the doldrums of sports talk radio. And then you get to March, and thank God it's here. We've got Patriots offseason stuff coming your way shortly. A Garrett Bradbury trade last night. Stephon Diggs, follow-up thoughts from that. Moves happening around the NFL. Max Crosby getting dealt for 2 first-round picks. A.J. Brown rumors. We'll make sure to get to all of that, of course, with legal tampering opening up here in a couple of days in the NFL. Jason Tatum's return last night. A lot of good stuff to get to from that, so we will certainly do that. I enjoy the World Baseball Classic. I've got a plan to fix it, though, which we'll get into a little bit later on in the program. Not fix it, improve it, because I think it's already a pretty good product, although some of these group stage games are rough. And you got, I kid you not, Brazil's number 2 hitter is a 32-year-old construction worker, and no, I'm not being facetious about that at all. I mean, it is the living embodiment of Mike Felger's goat farmers out there for some of these countries in the World Baseball Classic. But once you get to the big-time teams facing each other, it's a pretty good product. But I've got a way to improve it a little bit later on. We'll get to all of that and to you at 617-779-0985. But I do want to start with the Bruins coming off this win. Again, no surprise, a win at home, a loss on the road probably tomorrow. And that's just the way ultimately it's gone for this team this year because it's been an up-and-down season for them. And I think that made Don Sweeney's job really hard. You know, you look at a team and a roster where, and let's be honest, and I mean, especially coming out of today's game, I mean, I think it's kind of the embodiment of who they are. I mean, I don't think you walk away from today or frankly any other game this year, win, lose, shootout, doesn't matter. You're probably not going to walk away from most of these games saying that they're a great hockey team. And there probably has not been a moment this year where you've said they're a great hockey team. There probably won't be a moment where you feel that way. But they are just good enough. And they were just good enough to come away with kind of a grinded out, win today. I mean, sleepy matinee game. I mean, we all know that those games are not the best on the NHL schedule. You're probably not getting the best from either team, but you have a Washington team coming into town after trading, a number of their big-time players, and, the fire sale was on in Washington, and they're breaking that team up. And meanwhile, the Bruins stood pat. They did nothing. So you have two teams who took two very different approaches to the trading deadline, and in the end, there isn't ultimately too much to separate them. The Bruins are better than the Capitals. They've been better this year. They were better today. They deserve to win this game. But it's kind of an encapsulation of what you're getting in the NHL this year, especially with this, and where the Bruins are in the playoff picture. Just good enough. And that's kind of what they were today, and it's what they've been mostly all season, just good enough. And maybe just good enough is just enough to make the playoffs. And that's where they're at. But don't bet on it. And the reason I say don't bet on it is because Don Sweeney wouldn't bet on it. I mean, I can look at it. I've got eyes. We can look at it. We all have eyes. We know that they are who they are. And that doesn't mean they're bad. That doesn't mean they're great. They are a fringe playoff team. And that's a tough spot to be in if you're a general manager. I mean, do you really walk away from today's game, if you felt they should have added? And undeniably, there's a, group of Bruins fans who, felt they should have added. But do you walk away from today and say, see, this is proof that they should have added? I just don't think so. I mean, maybe you feel that way, but I'll take your thoughts on it at 617-779-0985. I don't walk away from today, and I have not walked away from the majority of this season where I've said this team is really ultimately that worthy of an addition. I just don't think it's worth it. I don't know what an extra player does for this group. They are who they are. I mean, does it increase the chances incrementally that they make the playoffs? Probably, yes. I mean, again, you bring in better players, theoretically, that should make you a better team. You add, that should make you a better team. I just don't know if it's that automatic in hockey. I mean, to be totally honest, let's say they subtracted Victor Arvidsson, who had the game-winning goal today. And he's had a good season for them. And, he's a nice enough player. Does it make that significant a difference for a team that then might miss the playoffs because you traded a Victor Arvidsson? I just don't think hockey works that way. There's so many, not to say replacement level players in hockey, to borrow a term from baseball, but there are. It really is about the group. It's about the chemistry. It's, buying into the coaching staff. And there's so many different factors that make a good hockey team a good hockey team. And frankly, in that sport, there's just very little to separate the majority of teams. So when you're smack dab in the middle, like the Bruins are, I don't know if one addition, two additions would have made that much of a difference. Conversely, I'd argue that a subtraction wouldn't have made that much of a difference with this team either. So I get why they stood pat. I do. From a totally philosophical standpoint, I understand why they didn't do much. And if it were just a pure hockey decision saying, listen, one move's not going to make the difference the same way that, picking another direction and selling is going to make too much of a difference. If it were just a hockey decision, I could understand it. But I think there are bigger factors at play here. This is not just a hockey decision. To stand pat, see what this group can do, and that's that. This is an ownership level decision. It is a business level decision. And that's what I want to get into. I think there are real factors and real reasons why the Bruins chose not to sell, ultimately looked at this team and said they're not worthy of buying, and as a result, they did nothing. It goes beyond the hockey. It goes to an ownership level factor that was signaled to you months ago, and it should be no surprise what was signaled to you. I want to get to some Charlie Jacobs comments that were made over the summer that, to me, have hung over this season like a dark cloud. And I don't think we've focused and directed enough attention towards them. Because I think Jacobs, in many ways, drew a line in the sand for how this season was going to go and how they were going to approach this season. And as a result, I honestly wonder if it may have hamstrung the best decision. And I think a lot of us would argue that the best decision for the Bruins in the long term and the big picture would have been taking a real honest hard look at this team and saying, they are who they are. Let's go a different direction. Let's be bold and let's sell. Let's try and capitalize on what we did last year, because undeniably that was a good deadline for the Bruins. That was an easier decision last year because they were out of the playoff picture and they were a dumpster fire. They had fired the coach. They needed to make moves. They needed to move on, from the previous era of Bruins hockey. It was undeniably what they had to do, and they nailed it. Credit to Don Sweeney. They nailed it at the deadline. This year was a much harder decision. Not just because of the fact that the team hadn't fallen out of it and they're still right in the middle of it and they may be just good enough to make it, but because of the ownership factor. We'll get to these comments from Charlie Jacobs, which I think are so important. 617-779-0985. I see on the phone lines. We'll get to you as well. One open line. Grab it. It's Matt McCarthy hanging out here on the Sports Hub.
Stay tuned for more Matt McCarthy on the Sports Hub. You're listening to Matt McCarthy
This is brutal.
on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Is there a mandate from your end that this team is back in the playoffs next year? And is there any appetite for this to potentially take longer than that to build back?
I would defer to by the way, we've had this conversation. Are the playoffs in the discussion for next year? And the response that I got from both Cam and Don was absolutely. We feel like we have a team that's we've already addressed this, that we have a team that we feel, and again, everyone needs to stay healthy, we can make the playoffs, absolutely, and make a push.
Charlie Jacobs over the summer, and he was asked if there was a mandate to make the playoffs. He did not deny it. And he said that Cam and Don have made it very clear to him that, yeah, this could be a playoff team. So what I ultimately think has happened here is business. It's not hockey. Because I would make the argument that for a team that is as middling as this Bruins team is, that selling off a piece or two, a couple of rentals, if you can get something for Arvidsson, maybe a move on, maybe a trade him. Given the prices at this deadline, given the need to ultimately rebuild this team through the draft, and it feels like that process has started. James Hagens might be an exciting young piece for the Bruins, and I mean, to be totally honest, you might see him sooner rather than later. Feeling better about Letourneau at this point. So just, a couple of factors to consider there. But this team is going to have to be rebuilt through the draft. And if there were opportunities to improve, again, picking a direction for the Bruins, I think oftentimes you need to do that. You need to be bold as a front office. But if you've promised your boss that you're going to make the playoffs, that maybe affects the long-term decision-making. And understandably so, they looked at this team and said, it's probably not worthy of an investment. George, you had some of the pieces, some of the prices ultimately that happened yesterday. I know you were fired up about this during the break. The prices.
Yes, in particular, St. Louis, who had the haul on the Robbie Thomas interest that the for the Bruins and in that interest, but they ended up trading away Shen. And those players were going for first and third round picks respectively. Here, let me pull this up.
Yeah, listen, the Bruins were not and should not have paid those prices to improve a team that is ultimately middling. So I understand the decision not to buy. I support the decision not to buy. So at that point, it really becomes, do you want to sell? And I just don't think, even if the Bruins were interested in selling, even if there were hockey reasons to sell, and I can make that argument. I will happily make that argument. I ultimately believe in it because I generally don't believe in standing pat. So if I'm the Bruins, I probably would have sold instead of, buying at these prices at this deadline for a team that, of course, I think we all would understand is not worth it. But there probably is, whether it's an ownership mandate to make the playoffs or a promise made by Cam Neely and Don Sweeney that this team would be a playoff quality team. So they're just going to ride it out. And they're just going to approach it the way they approached it. And I just ultimately think, for a general manager who, maybe was a little bit on the hot seat at the end of last year, these are the spots you end up in, and maybe you don't make the best long-term decisions because there are short-term interests, especially when it comes to job security and especially when it comes to promises made to ownership. We all know how it is. The Bruins will fire coaches, but they only start firing general managers and team presidents when teams start missing the playoffs. It's just the way it is. And, they'll happily scapegoat the coach, every single time until you don't have home playoff gates, which I think we all understand is important to the Jacobs family. It's a big part of the business model. So if there was a promise made, or if there was an indication made, as Charlie told us this summer, that Cam and Don told him that this team can make the playoffs, that's going to affect the decision-making moving forward, and it's going to affect the short-term decision-making, and it's just something you have to keep an eye out for as a Bruins fan. 617-779-0985. Let's go to Mike in Southie to lead us off today. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how's it going? How you doing today?
What's up, Mike? How you been?
It's been good. Yeah, I liked the lack of movement on Sweeney at this deadline. I mean, you don't really want to be the team that's trading off all your assets or all your pieces to either get better or get worse. Teams that are fire sailing, like, they're not going to be good for the next 6 years. I just don't think when you have a generational talent like Pasta on the front end that you make a move like that. You gotta look to reload if you can. But ultimately, it's the guys in the stands that have been yelling trade Pasta for the last 2 years. I can't stand them.
Yeah, I mean, that's not what I'm talking about, and I'm not saying trade David Pastrnak. I'm talking about maybe moving on from a guy like Arvidsson. Peak. They're talking about, an extension with Andrew Peak. Those are not building block pieces. I like Arvidsson. He's a nice player, and if he can get you a nice return, then maybe that makes sense. Because again, I'd make the argument that adding a piece to this roster probably doesn't make that much of a difference. It's an incremental difference. You go out, you get a nice solid NHL role player. I mean, it makes you better, but I just don't know how much of a difference that really makes in a sport where there's actually very little to separate the best teams from the good teams and the good teams to the average teams. I mean, you have to do something far more significant to take a team with, ultimately in the spot that the Bruins are in by adding one piece. I mean, that's not, you still might miss the playoffs if you go out and buy. Like, there's no guarantee. So I understand that decision from Don Sweeney. I guess I would just make the argument the other way. If you trade Victor Arvidsson, and he's a nice player, and I'm not trying to diminish what he does for the team, but if you trade Arvidsson, are you really that much worse? Right now you're the 8th place team in the East. You might be the 9th place team by the end of it. Is Arvidsson going to make that much of a difference? So I just think, ultimately they have to look bigger picture here, but they can't look bigger picture, and they need to do everything in their power within reason to make the playoffs, because that was promised to ownership. And even if it's just getting rid of an incremental player or, a role player like Arvidsson, that might make you incrementally worse, but they can't afford to do that because a promise was made to ownership. And what does that ultimately signal to ownership if you peel off a piece or two? That's not a fire sale. I'm not saying sell everything. I'm not trading Pastrnak, Swayman, McAvoy. No, of course not. You're not doing that. I'm not saying trade Hampus Lindholm. I'm not saying trade Elias Lindholm, but expiring contracts, role players, that's a little bit of a different thing. And I just don't know if it would have made you that much worse.
I hear you. Even players on short term like Casey Middlestat, just middling players that are just not going to be there for the future. I would have been more of a proponent for that. Specifically, though, these St. Louis Blues trade, and God bless them, they were able to get the Islanders and the Red Wings to bite. Specifically, Red Wings who committed to get Justin Falk. They traded a first and a third rounder along with the defenseman Justin Holt and the unsigned prospect. And then very similarly, the Islanders for Braden Shen, a winger that maybe the Bruins could use, top 6 for sure, somebody we're familiar with, a first and a third rounder respectively as well, along with forward Jonathan Drouin, a pretty decent player, and then a goalie in the AHL.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not saying the Bruins should be trading, players of that quality. And
Robert Thomas would have been even better,
of course,
more of a haul than than what this is. Right, we're talking at minimum one first round draft pick, if not 2, and the low rise of the world, who I would make expendable, but Hagens and Letourneau also, like an Andor, would have been a part of a Robbie Thomas trade. I would have just been out on that.
I think they made the right decision in that regard.
Correct.
I'm not trading Hagens, and Letourneau has so much potential.
I know, being
given
big,
his size.
Yes. I would say that the disappointment is if they could have done anything similar to last year. And to your point, right, the Arvidsson, who did have a no movement clause, so there was a little bit of a hiccup there. I'm sure he would have had to have waived it to be on the market again the way he had come to Boston last year. So it's a lot easier said than done. I just think that their talent, it says something about the talent that is on these expiring contracts that it's not really worthy for other teams to kind of give you a Fraser Minton the way that they were able to do last year from Toronto.
I mean, the no movement clause is not something that, I mean, it's not a no deal type of thing. It's like you can't even go there. It's not a non-starter, because if you're presenting an opportunity to go to a playoff team, and obviously, a team who'd be interested in Arvidsson, is that, then, he's probably a little bit more willing to waive that. 617-779-0985. How about Jake in the suburbs? Hi, Jake.
Hey, I think I really wish that Asimon and Peak were the ones who were gone. I think, we got a fourth for Jeffrey DL in the middle of the winter, so Asimon definitely could have fetched us a fourth or a third, perhaps. And frankly, there's redundancy there in the sense that he and Steves are basically the same. They already signed Steves this winter to next year, so there's no room for them. And frankly, if Higgins comes up, he's going to be alternating with that exact spot, the third line wing. And then the Peak bit, I just feel like, if the Bruins win a playoff round, it's not because they were, had Peak or Yoki Haru in there. And ultimately, they already made the massive mistake of Yoki Haru's contract. So the best way to recoup that, is, at least get an asset for the other guy. So those are the two ones that I really wish they had taken care of.
I mean, Jake, I think you're totally right about that. I mean, if you move on from Andrew Peak, again, are you worse on paper? Yeah. I mean, but how much worse? To your point, he's not going to be the difference between you winning and losing a playoff series. So I'd also say he's not going to be the difference between you making and missing the playoffs. Now, if you strip off 7 pieces off the roster, yeah, that's different. Last year is a different spot than this year. Last year was easy. You trade Marchand, you trade Carlo, you trade Coyle, you trade everybody on the roster. And as a result, they recouped a much bigger return. But they might be concerned about, the message that's being sent to the room if you don't really add. You move a piece away, you move a guy away, maybe 2 guys get dealt. I mean, yeah, is that the best message to send to your locker room? No, of course it's not. But I don't know, this is hockey. If you believe, in the leadership in the room, and maybe they don't because they don't have a captain, so maybe that's a factor, and maybe they didn't want to put this on Marco Sturm, who is in his first year on the job. So, I mean, I get it, but it's just not a great spot for them to be in. So as a result, you stand pat, which is not the end of the world. I mean, we're not going to be sitting here 6 months from now talking about the fact that they didn't sell off at the deadline. Sometimes there are franchise-altering decisions. This is not a franchise-altering decision. Let's call it what it is. They're a middling team. They're in the middle, and they stood pat. But to me, it just speaks to, outside of the hockey stuff, it just speaks to, again, the business model and what ownership wants, and more importantly, perhaps, what Cam Neely and Don Sweeney promised ownership, which was a playoff team. So as a result, they're going to do everything in their power to prioritize some short-term decisions. And this is probably indicative of things to come over the summer and everything. It may take longer to ultimately rebuild a Stanley Cup team because they're not going to accumulate as many assets as they possibly can because they're going to try and stay in the middle.
You can make the playoffs, absolutely, and make a push.
You're not pushing with this roster. You're not. Yeah. So the question is, how much is making the playoffs worth to you? And I think it's more worth it to the Bruins than other organizations. It just is what it is.
Isn't it just a frustrating spot, though, to be like the Atlanta Hawks, across sports of the NHL world, that fringe wild card team? We're holding on to that second wild card spot, and it's very mediocre, and it's tough to get out of it. Of course, right? The trade deadline comes, and the indecision, right? Are we sellers? Are we buyers? What message are we sending to the team if we're selling off any bigger pieces? And to the caller's point, Esimon, those kind of fringe players, Andrew Peaks of the world, you should be able to shed those contracts and hit reset. Those aren't players that are going to be here for the future. Identify the ones that you do want for the future, the Hustadinovs of the world, and get rid of the Yoki Harus, the players that are inconsequential to your future. So it is frustrating to stand pat. And, it's kind of like, house money. We're going to put the chips to the table and say, hey guys, we're going to ride with you here. We believe in you, but, we are this fringe playoff team, and it is kind of a Dennis Green. We are who we think that they are. And it's very frustrating, though, to be on the outskirts and be that just completely mediocre team.
Well, right. I mean, so the contracts and what are you really getting for Esimon? I mean, you're not getting a first round pick or anything like that.
Correct.
But it's because of the commitment, and by the way, building from the middle in hockey is easier in that sport than it is a lot of other sports. We're not going to even make the comparisons between hockey and basketball. You never want to be in the middle in basketball. You can be in the middle in hockey, but if you're going to be in the middle in hockey, you're going to be handing out Tanner Jeannot type contracts. So
right, and I do like him. I like the Mark Kastelics and the Tanner Jeannots of the world.
Okay, but
what's it
a remaining 4 years at $3.4 million for Tanner Jeannot? That's the type of move you make to stay in the playoff hunt.
Right.
But in the end, that's gonna hurt you if you're trying to make a big move down the road. So that's the tough spot, that ultimately you're in. But they're okay with being in the middle, and they proved that once again at this deadline. They are okay.
They want that gate so badly.
They're okay with being in the middle. Yoki Haru at $3 million per. I mean, that's
tough call. I do like Steves though. Alex Steves is he's worn on me.
Yeah.
We don't see enough of him, but it seems like
Steves is $1.6 million.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that's a bargain to be sure. Hopefully he turns. Not say he'll turn into a geeky, but right. I think that there's upside with Steves that I see. It just seems like there's a lot of bottom six forwards that are playing big time minutes. It's like the Charlie Coyle example. He was fine as a third line centerman, but once you're asking him to be a top six forward, it's like you don't really get the value of him anymore. You're kind of wearing thin, and I think that's a lot of players that are being asked too much of themselves, to be honest. And really, we have a team of bottom six forwards that are all over the place.
617-779-0985. More thoughts on the Bruins deadline. We'll get to some more thoughts on today's game. Also, some comments that Don Sweeney's made about Marco Sturm that I want to get into as well. We'll get to Jason Tatum's return last night. World Baseball Classic. Some thoughts on that. NFL free agency. A lot to get to until 6 o'clock. It's Matt McCarthy on the Sports Hub.
You're listening to Matt McCarthy on the Sports Hub.
The game.
He's a nice guy.
And there will be no mercy.
But you know otherwise. It's Matt McCarthy on the Sports Hub.
In hockey, just wretched on the road. They're up and down, and obviously, I'm sure that went into some of the decision making. Probably not worthy of an investment, but also business considerations, ownership considerations in regards to not selling. Maybe you don't want to sell just because you're in the playoff picture, and I mean that's defensible. I mean I certainly won't sit here and ignore that argument as well. But I do think it speaks to just in general the way the Bruins operate. They are comfortable in being in the middle because I think that's job security for Cam Neely. I think that's job security for Don Sweeney. Playoff gates are important. We understand that. And I think that's a massive factor. We also know that the Bruins have no problem firing coaches and blaming coaches for anything and everything that goes wrong. And you can make an argument that actually that does kind of work in hockey. I mean, there's a shelf life for good coaches in hockey. There's a shelf life for all coaches in hockey. And I think Marco Sturm's done a really nice job with a roster that I think we know is what it is. I mean, it's been up and down, but, this is a team that had one of the worst records in hockey last year. And, they added kind of a bunch of middling veteran players, and they're certainly significantly better than they were last year. And I think Sturm's done a nice job. I've been impressed with the job that Marco Sturm has done. I think he's gotten some buy-in, and I think that's worthy of praise. I did find it interesting, and I was driving in today and listening to RJ and Bob on the call, and the guys did a great job as always. They had a sit-down with Don Sweeney in the first and second intermission. And the last question they asked of Don Sweeney, after going through the trading deadline and the decision-making process and everything, and last question, I think it was RJ who asked him, was basically, what do you think of the job that Marco Sturm has done? And I mean, this is an easy one, right? I mean, it's a first-year coach. The team's in the playoffs. We all know the roster isn't great, but Sweeney's not going to admit that because he's the person who puts the roster together. And I mean, this feels automatic. Heap praise on the first-year coach. I mean, this is a layup. And I was surprised by the response and how tepid, at least it seemed to me. This is my reaction when I was driving in. I'll see if I feel the same way. Do we have it, George? Let's play it.
Your overall thoughts on Marco Sturm's first year as head coach? Has he lived up to your expectations?
Well, I mean, I have high expectations for the coaching standpoint. What he has done is exhibited the passion that he has, and the teaching aspect, and wanting to work with players, wanting to communicate with players, how he wants them to play. The system side of things, he's not been so fixated on this is the only way. It's there's an evolving part of understanding where your players, what they're capable of doing, and how you tweak things as a result of that. He's shown growth in those areas, leaned on his assistants. Spotter's done a good job with the power play. They've tug of war a little bit with Leachy and Kells in terms of helping each other on the penalty kill, knowing that we have to improve in that area. But Marco's been in command of all those things. I will tell you, it is a steep learning curve in terms of going from the American Hockey League to the National Hockey League and what's on the plate of the head coach at this level. I think he has a better understanding of being ready for it, but not quite understanding, when you're in the chair, how hot it is and all the moving parts associated with it. I think he's developed a better appreciation for that. I hope I'm helping him through some of those things where, he can lean on me, because I've enjoyed working with him, trying to give him rope, but also trying to give him some of the experiences I've gone through, and we continue to move forward.
That's 1 minute and 40 seconds. Did he once in there say Marco Sturm has done a good job? Once? Watch out for that.
A lot of but, and he was quick to explain however.
Wow. George, I don't know if I can get just the very beginning of it, which I think is the most important part. Like, the question is essentially, do you think Marco Sturm has done a good job? What's your evaluation of Marco Sturm? And isn't the easy answer, even if you don't believe it, to just come out and say, yeah, of course, Marco's done a good job. We're in the playoff picture right now. Can I just get the beginning of that real quick?
Well, I mean, I have high expectations for the coaching standpoint. What he has done is exhibited the passion that he has, and the teaching aspect, and wanting to work.
Has Marco Sturm done a good job? Well, I have high expectations.
You're not meeting my expectations.
Yeah, because if they miss the playoffs, it's going to be blame the coach. The coach didn't get enough. The coach is a first-year coach.
He doesn't know how hot the seat is up here in the NHL. Not quite the AHL hot, but it's NHL hot over here.
Wow. That was that should be easy, man. That should be really easy. Even if you don't think the guy's doing a great job, it's his first year on the job. You're not firing him. You're not, you're certainly not doing that after year one. It has not been a disaster. I mean, it looked like it might be a disaster at the beginning of the year. They were one of the worst teams in hockey, and they've turned it around. I give Marco Sturm some credit for lighting a fire under this team's ass. Of course, the behind the beef footage of him, ripping into the team. I think against Anaheim. I'd have to go back and watch ultimately what game that was, but nobody in town is clamoring. Is calling in and saying Marco Sturm's doing a bad job. I mean,
there's an evolving part of understanding where your players, what they're capable of doing, and how you tweak things as a result of that. He's shown growth in those areas.
What does any of that mean? It's so easy to just come out and say, yeah, Marco's done a good job. We believe in him. He's a first year head coach. Obviously, there's always room for growth, but he's done a good job. Right now we're in the playoffs. If they ended today, that's all he had to say. But he can't bring himself to say it because he needs a fall guy in the end. If this team makes the playoffs, you're going to hear more of that from Don Sweeney. That's him laying the groundwork for it a little bit. I was stunned by what I heard. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be stunned because they always blame the coach. So, I mean, shame on me for not fully expecting him to come out and, let's be honest, I kind of criticize the coach in that response. And we can have a debate as to how good a job Marco Sturm has done, because how are you supposed to say with a roster that obviously has its limitations? But Don Sweeney's not going to come out and admit that because he's the one who built the roster. That is his job. So instead, he's going to kind of poke little holes in the job that Sturm has done. I mean, if you ask me to have a take, I think Sturm's done a good job with what he's been given. I can't prove it, but I mean, this is my gut reaction. That's just my gut feeling about it. And you ask Don Sweeney, he does not want to go there.
It's like laying the groundwork for the scapegoat conversation. It's what it sadly seems like. It did. It looks like there's some dissension there. It's something to monitor, to be sure. But it looks like heads are going to roll if we don't make the postseason this year, which, based on the roster construct going into the season, I'm not sure if that is a reasonable expectation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think heads are going to roll, although he did mention, there's been a tug of war between two of the assistants when it comes to the penalty kill. I mean, their penalty kills hasn't been good, but they're 24th in hockey. So all of a sudden it's now because we've got two coaches infighting, two assistant coaches infighting. Has nothing to do with the roster that Don Sweeney built. It has to do with the infighting between two coaches. So, I mean, maybe there's a scapegoat there. Well, hey, Don, why'd you build a team that had a, bottom third of the league penalty kill? Wasn't my fault. Two assistant coaches are fighting like schoolgirls down there. What do you want me to do about it? I'm going to fire one of them. Man, it's the way they operate. It's always the coaching staff's fault. I mean,
they've tug of warred a little bit with Leachy and Kells in terms of helping each other on the penalty kill.
Can I get the full part of that? It's so true. Like that stood out to me too. It's like, this guy's now like airing out that two assistant coaches have. When do you ever hear a general manager do that? Be like, yeah, let me tell you, I've got two guys on the coaching staff who hate each other.
Right. It's like a half-assed way of saying like they've worked well to improve the power play, but right here you go, Don. You can explain it a little bit better.
Spotter's done a good job with the power play. They've tug of warred a little bit with Leachy and Kells in terms of helping each other on the penalty kill, knowing that we have to improve in that area. But Marco's been in command of all those things.
Yeah, I know. He doesn't mean what he says. And then the whole Road Warriors thing, like we got to get better on the road, like we're a good home team, but on the road, and we have a majority road games, so like that's going to be a problem. It's like, oh, Don, come on.
I just keep that response, and we're going to reference it over the course of the summer. There's something not totally right going on. That got my antenna up for sure, and I was not expecting. I mean, I'm just driving in, I'm half paying attention type of thing, you're just coasting, thinking about the Marconi award-winning radio program I'm about to deliver. And that woke me up. I was like, huh? What? Wait a minute. This should be easy. Just say he's doing a good job. Oh, no, he can't bring himself to do it.
Back of the interview, layup kind of a question, just go home kind of a question. Good job, RJ, for asking the hard-hitting question. And Sweeney, who he's sitting on this, he was ready to lay into Sturm, apparently.
And his two assistant coaches, Leach and Kells, who hate each other. I mean, they're fighting all over the place, and that's why our power play sucks. Stunning, really, if you ask me. 617-779-0985. Joe.
Hey, McCarthy. Happy Saturday. How we doing?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Not too bad. Well, I guess I could be doing better. I'm driving to Home Goods to go get a duvet cover for my wife on a Saturday. So, things could be better, but the Bruins won.
You getting like an UGG duvet cover? Sometimes you can get some good deals at Home Goods, I'll tell you what.
We'll see. Try not to break the bank, but one thing for you. So, I do kind of see what you're saying with the Don Sweeney stuff, but also, could you imagine, though, what a Peter DeBoer or like a Quinville kind of could be doing with this roster? I don't fully kind of blame Sweeney for saying that. It's a year where he kind of has to put all the chips on the table, not all the chips on the table, but he definitely has to prove his worth in terms of building a roster from scratch. I don't think it's crazy to see what they've done with Sturm and how Sweeney could just imagine where would where would that team be with a more veteran seasoned coach?
Well,
I'll
Joe,
hang up and listen.
All right.
Yeah,
good luck, Joe. Make the wife happy. I'll tell you what. Of all the places she could send you on a Saturday, Home Goods isn't so bad. One in Plainville is excellent. Highly recommend that one. I don't know if that's the one you're headed out to, but strong. Good qualities. That's a good one. Why would a veteran coach want to come here? There's a reason why they have a first-year coach. It's because in the end, and coaches talk around the league, if you're an experienced top-level coach, why would you want to come to a place where you know you're going to get scapegoated and blamed, and the GM and the team president are not going to be held accountable? So that's the issue that the Bruins run into here. I'm not saying it's full-blown Red Sox. Craig Breslow is the 12th guy they interviewed or the 12th guy they asked because nobody wants to even interview with the team because there's no job security in it and you need to come in and deal with a dysfunctional operation. I'm not saying it's that, but there is a factor there. Sweeney has gotten to fire 3 coaches. That's a lot. Generally you get, 2 is kind of the max before you're the one who gets the axe. But that's not the way it works here. Because, again, if you keep building rosters that are just middling enough to make the playoffs, and, I think they've probably done, a little of that this year, then you'll keep your job and you'll stay on it, and they'll fire the coach instead. They'll blame the coach. Eventually where that hurts you is you're not going to get maybe the quality of coach that you want. So if your sense is correct, Joe, that maybe they'd get a little bit more out of this roster with a more experienced coach, I would put that on the way that they do business and the way they treat coaches, and say you're probably not going to get that guy at this point. What coach is going to come work for a guy who's gotten the opportunity to fire 3 coaches? It's just not the way it's going to work. How about Eric in the car? Hey, Eric.
Hey, McTakey, just wanted to say you've been absolutely killing it for the last 20 minutes on these Bruins takes. I just got back in my car. I work at the Garden, and by the time I got in my car, the first 5 minutes getting on there was listening to these Sweeney comments live. And I thought to myself, it was extremely weird. Like you said, it's a layup kind of answer. Oh, yeah, you've been doing a great job this season. And, looking at the roster, we knew about Sturm beforehand that he was good at developing young talent, like you said, always in the AHL, never in the NHL as a head coach. And he's really been doing a good job with guys like Fraser Minton or Marat Hustadinov. These younger guys haven't really done much of anything. And with the roster they've been given, it's pretty good that they're the 8th spot right now, but just ludicrous type of comments from Sweeney there.
Yeah, weird. Weird is the best way to describe it, and it puts my antenna up for sure. And it's just consistent with who they've been. It's in the end, it's always the coach's fault. It has nothing to do with the front office, the scouting department, the GM, the team president. It's always the coach's fault. And I'm shocked that Sweeney just couldn't go to a place where he comes out and says, "Good job." Even if you don't think it, it's just easy enough to say in the first. Now, if this is year 3 or year 4 on the job, yeah, you need to be a little bit more honest about it. Because if you come out and say good job when people don't think he's doing a good job, then everybody's going to call you out for it. You're going to say you're lying. That's BS. If he had come out and said, yeah, Marco's done a good job, really nothing more to it. We're not playing the comments. I'm not talking about it. Saying, I wonder if Don Sweeney is lying. Nobody would be able to tell at this point. The guy's been on the job for 27 seconds. So, I don't know. Keep an eye on it. Doesn't feel like that's trending in the right direction. And watch for a change on the coaching staff. Because he aired that out publicly. That was, whoa. You don't hear that too often. Got to find somebody to take the blame if they don't make the playoffs, that's for sure. So, again, the decision-making over the last 24 hours, standing pat, blaming the assistant coaches for the power play, the penalty kill. Yep, starting to cover your own tracks a little bit. 617-779-0985. We've got to do a quick update on the Sports Hub headlines. No commercials here. We'll be right back with you. It's Matt McCarthy hanging out until 6 o'clock.
I will tell you, it is a steep learning curve in terms of going from the American Hockey League to the National Hockey League and what's on the plate of the head coaches.
From the Town Fair Tire Studio, this is
strong finger all up and down.
This is home of the 18-time world champion Boston Celtics. WBC FM and HD Boston 98.5. The Sports Hub. Sports Hub headlines presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
Bruins pick up another win at home, 3-1 today over the Washington Capitals, coming off yesterday's trading deadline. Victor Arvidsson's breakaway goal was the difference. Pavel Zacha also scored on the power play. Bruins back in action in Pittsburgh tomorrow with a 4:30 puck drop there. Jeremy Swayman got the start today. He had 22 saves. Celtics will take on the Cavs tomorrow afternoon, coming off last night's win over the Mavericks and Jason Tatum's return. News from around the NFL, trades, of course, happening around the league. The latest, the Packers acquiring linebacker Zaire Franklin from the Colts last night. Max Crosby getting traded to the Ravens for 2 first-round picks. NFL legal tampering beginning this week. And at the World Baseball Classic, Team USA will be in action tonight as they take on Great Britain. Elsewhere, Puerto Rico plays Panama at 6, Israel and Venezuela at 7, Chinese Taipei and Korea at 10 o'clock tonight. Earlier today, Holland beat Nicaragua 4-3. Italy an 8-0 win over Brazil. Canada picked up their first win of the tournament, 8-2 over Colombia. Japan with an 8-6 win over Korea. Early this morning, Masataka Yoshida and Shohei Ohtani going deep in the win for Japan. Headlines are brought to you by the $14.99 Big Deal meals at the 99, like the juicy chopped sirloin. All Big Deal meals are now available all day, every day for just $14.99. You gotta love the nines. I'm Matt McCarthy. I'm Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update at 5 o'clock.
Attack for him, deep three, violent two-hand slam. Wow.
98.5 The Sports Hub.
Nice play, Renfro.
Hot takes.
This team blows.
And passion advice.
Shave your mustache, dude. It sucks.
Matt McCarthy on the Sports Hub.
I've been accused of misleading the press in terms of what I said the other day. There would be a cautious approach, and they certainly different from last year. And it was. Doesn't mean we didn't explore an awful lot of things, to be perfectly honest and truthful, because we would like to have continued to add to our group. It just didn't materialize. But that being said, I certainly want to welcome Alexis and Massimo and Lucas to our group, and really wish Brett and Jackson luck. Two really great young kids that have a bright future in front of them as hockey players, but they're good kids, and these are tough days to see kids. We think there's a good opportunity where they're going, and welcome the new guys too.
Who? He named like 5 guys there. I don't know. I don't know who they are, but good luck to all of them. Those coming in and those departing. I'm serious. I don't know. That's not like a sports talk radio. I don't know. No, that's I don't know. And you know what? I don't need to know. It's Matt McCarthy hanging out. 617-779-0985. Adam in Lowell. Adam.
Hey, Sweeney knows he has a job for life as long as Cam's there, and Cam's never going to get fired. So remember at the end of last season when not only did they say we got to be better, they're like, you people don't understand. A lot of the people we've drafted are still in the league. Yeah, on other teams' third and fourth lines. Like, It's just, he has a job for life. They're never going to get rid of Cam because all the olds go, oh, you don't know how good of a player he was, though. No, I understand how bad of an executive he is, though. Screw them both. Thanks.
Well, I'm not saying screw them both, but I do think it's fair to question some of the stuff they've done. And yeah, I mean, listen, you go back to the press conference. Can I just get the Charlie Jacobs comment on whether or not there's a mandate to make the playoffs? There were so many comments that came out of that summer presser last year where it just makes you say, all right, are they fully committed to, getting back to making the hard and bold decisions that they need to make, to potentially get back to a Stanley Cup quality roster? Or is it more important for them to be in the middle and get back to the playoffs? Here's Charlie Jacobs on that.
I would defer to by the way, we've had this conversation. Are the playoffs in the discussion for next year? And the response that I got from both Cam and Don was absolutely. We feel like we have a team that's we've already addressed this, that we have a team that we feel and again, everyone needs to stay healthy. We can make the playoffs, absolutely, and make a push.
They feel that they're a playoff team, and the decisions that they made and have made going back to the summer would indicate that. It is important for them to build a team that is capable of making the playoffs, even though that might not necessarily build the best team long term. That's giving $3.5 million a year to Tanner Jeannot. That's what that is. That's retaining Victor Arvidsson at the deadline. That's $3 million to Henry Jokiharju. Those are the types of deals that you make and decisions that you make when it's important for you to be the 7 or the 8 seed. And it may work out for them. And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I generally say this as somebody who's anti-tanking. I mean, I don't want teams to go to the bottom in hockey, especially. So philosophically, I actually tend to agree a little bit more with, trying to build from the middle, but this has been the approach so long because of the business model, not necessarily because of the hockey philosophies. It's because of the business model. They want to be in the playoffs. They need to be in the playoffs. That's the business. Cam Neely and Don Sweeney will, to the caller's points, have a job for a long, long time if they continue to do that, even though that may ultimately keep the Bruins from a different ceiling down the road. Just a little bit more. Sorry, George.
Yeah, that's right. I do have some different comments from Charlie Jacobs post last season, kind of glazing, for lack of a better term, Cam Neely and Don Sweeney on kind of how good of a job that they're doing, kind of boasting about it, if we want to.
Sure. Hit me with it.
Now, let me be clear. The results from last season are absolutely unacceptable, and accountability has never been higher. However, I need to tell you that when deciding what is best for the long-term success of this franchise, we have to be pragmatic and use data-driven decisions. Now, Cam and Don, in their respective roles as president and general manager, have proven that they can take a franchise that has missed the playoffs and build one for sustained success. It is my opinion that we can do it again, and this time get over the hump.
Yeah, I mean, and that is a vote of confidence in Cam Neely and Don Sweeney, and yet you asked Don Sweeney today how his head coach is doing, and I mean, there's no vote of confidence at all. The only thing he says is, well, my expectations are really high. I'm sorry, with what roster? Yeah, I mean, I think the Bruins have, in many ways, met their expectations this year. The expectations were laid out that they thought this team could make the playoffs. That's what Cam and Don told Charlie Jacobs. Charlie Jacobs told us that.
I have high expectations.
Again, he has high expectations. Yeah, the question was, what job, how... Can I get RJ's question, just to be fair to him, if you would?
Your overall thoughts on Marco Sturm's first year as head coach? Has he lived up to your expectations?
I have high expectations for the coaching standpoint.
It's not that hard to say yes.
He had to say expectations, right? Just threw him for a loop. Like, my expectations? What? Like, you crossed the line. You think I expect to be a fringe playoff team?
Even if he says, well, my expectations are high, but I think Marco's done a really nice job. That's totally fair, but no, he couldn't bring himself to go there.
This is the opposite of an endorsement, I would say.
No, it was, If I'm Marco Sturm, I hear those comments and I say, really, dude? I mean, What do you want me to do with Casey Middlestad on my second line? It is what it is. And then Marco Sturm at the beginning of the year, when it was Ty Anderson, during the 7-game losing streak, pretty much right off the jump, Ty asks him, like, what's he going to do? And he's like, hey, what do you want me to do about it? Like, he basically said the roster is the roster. It is what it is. I mean, he pulled an Alex Cora, the roster is the roster. So I don't know, maybe a little bit of tension. If this team does not make the playoffs, watch out for tension between the front office and the coaching staff. 617-779-0985. No tension between the coaching staff and Jason Tatum. The Celtics on his return went well last night for the Celtics. We'll get to that next.
More Matt McCarthy on the way on the Sport.
He's got the instructions you need.
Wrap that meat.
Matt McCarthy on the Sports Hub.
Only for a second, pulled away by Washington, but his lead pass picked up by Derek White. Shove over Pritchard, open, three, short, offensive rebound, two-hand slam, Jason Tatum.
As was what I'd tell you, Sean, I hope his first shot was going to be.
Dallas with the lead, kick out, Pritchard, Tatum up fake, steps to his left, three from the corner, got it!
There you go. Get the nerves out. Get the nerves out.
The offensive rebound putback might have been the thing that gets him in sync.
That's how loud this place has become all of a sudden.
Back-to-back field goals for Tatum. Celtics by 2.
You know, if you believe that momentum doesn't exist in sports, I would point to that, 40 seconds of basketball last night. Jason Tatum's first bucket returning from the torn Achilles, follows it up almost immediately after that with a three-point shot, and the Celtics didn't look back after that. They kind of were feeling their way out through the first half. It's kind of an ugly first half. Tatum, of course, was, feeling his way through the game, returning, and understandably so. And there are going to be a lot of moments where Jason Tatum is going to be feeling it out, and you just got to get those out of the way. And, that is what it is. But that dunk, put back, just a little easy put back, then a little sidestep three, okay, there we go. I
agree. It was much needed too at the time because you could tell he was definitely very rusty going into this game. The nerves had to have been there. He front rimmed a dunk, which it was a beautiful crossover move to get him to where he needed to be, and then he got stuffed by the rim, and it's just like, oh no, that's super embarrassing. He hasn't had a basket yet, and the putback came at the right time, and then the three happened at the right time. It seemed like everything before then was forced. And granted, I still think there is some rust, having watched the whole game, but I do think that his finesse game and his confidence grew, especially after that sequence in the end of the second quarter.
Without a doubt, confidence grew, momentum grew, and the Celtics didn't look back. And, by the way, when, it was Kata, Brown, Tatum, White, and Pritchard, you're like, that's a pretty good lineup.
Kata has been impressive.
Kata's been the man.
He has.
He really has.
I take all the negative stuff I've ever said to him back. I didn't mean it, Kata. You have some sneaky good footwork down there in the post, and
he moves well.
Yeah, his rebounding has gotten a lot better. He's no longer allowing putbacks to Nurkic for the Jazz to win the game. So he's cleaned a lot of that up, and we're going to need it because Vucevic, sneaky big injury there. He's going to be out minimally a month.
Yeah. So obviously that broke the finger, and that's the negative from last night. Because Tatum changes everything. And, I will say that, and we'll get into this a little bit more in a second, the thing I really have always admired about Jason Tatum's game is when he is not on his game, he still makes everybody else around him better. And that's a thing a lot of star players don't have in the NBA. There's so many players who, need to get theirs, they're volume players, and I don't know. If James Harden's shot isn't falling, does he really make everybody else around him better type of thing? There's so many guys around the league who I would say that about, and Tatum is not one of those. And, for, a player coming off a serious, significant injury, he's not going to be the same. And there is going to be a feeling out process and knocking off the rust and gaining confidence. That's only human. It's only, and it will, affect them. Of course it will. It's unavoidable. But Tatum's going to mitigate a lot of that just by the fact that he makes everybody else around him better. But real quick on momentum in sports. That sequence last night, and it just came to me as I'm watching him, this is why the game is not played by robots. It's played by human beings. Jason Tatum was 0 for 6 until that point. Again, he's getting stuffed by the rim. That's not who Jason Tatum is even on his worst day. But he's a human being. He's knocking the rust off. It's his first game back. There are a lot of emotions that you need to go through. And then you see one go in with just a little putback dunk. There's nothing special to it. It's a small, minuscule putback dunk.
Great positioning.
Just he was there. He did the right thing. And the right thing led to the right result. It took me back to the reason they were down 3-1 in the first place when Tatum got hurt. He was rolling around on the floor at Madison Square Garden and everything changes in a moment. Oh my God, this is, it's going to affect the Celtics' future. Like I went back to that moment as a Celtics fan. How could you not, with the the journey that he's been on and they've been on and you've been on as a fan for the last 10 months? From the second he went down, I mean, that was it. It's like the Knicks series, it didn't even matter at that point because it didn't. I mean, Tatum is the future, and, is he going to come back? Is he going to be the same guy? And you hope he is. It's not what an Achilles injury was 20 years ago. I mean, I get that, modern medicine, but all of those thoughts and those feelings had to go through your head. How could it not? So when you see a guy do the right thing and you see the ball go in the basket, and then that leads to the team feeling better about themselves and picking up some momentum, then Tatum's very next chance, he sinks a three, he looks like Jason Tatum, and they don't look back, and they dust Dallas in the second half. That's because they felt better. You see it go in, you're like, you get to breathe, you get to relax. And it just brought me back to their insistence on shooting the three when it wouldn't go in against the Knicks, and Tatum gets hurt and you're down 3-1 and that's it and it's over. Because they refused to have a moment where, they did the right thing and they went to the basket and they ignored the numbers and they ignored the data and they ignored their philosophy. It's their credo, their religion. It's like, we have to shoot the three. They went 25 for 100 in those first two games of that Knicks series, and they told you, even though it didn't work, it was the right thing, even though it obviously was not the right thing, it was not the right approach. Because again, the game is played by humans. Their attitude was, we're a better three-point shooting team than 25%. Eventually they're going to start falling, and they didn't, because the game's played by human beings and you get tight and you start to doubt yourself, and bad feelings and bad thoughts creep in, and sometimes you just need to see it go in the ocean. You just need to see it happen to say you can exhale and start to breathe. But they refused to do that because they couldn't admit that they were wrong in the moment. And again, is Jason Tatum going to go 0 for 6? More often than not, he's not going to go 0 for 6, but there's no reason to then say, well, he's going to go 0 for 6. Well, there's no way he's going to go 0 for 12. Well, he might just go 0 for 12 if that's your attitude. So that putback, it changed everything. Changed everything for Tatum, and we all can understand it, right? If it's like it was the first good moment, it's like, all right, I got the first one out of the way, now I can just play. Whereas, last year against the Knicks, they couldn't get the first one out of the way because they refused to do the easy thing. They refused to kind of do the right thing. They had to prove to everyone that they had the right approach and that they were right about this. And as a result, they lost that series and Tatum got hurt, and now here we are 10 months later, and this is where they are now. So I just saw that last night. I was like, that is the importance of momentum in sports. It's obvious. It's right there in front of you, and it was a great moment.
May I ask you to interject? Are you gaining confidence in Joe Mazzulla?
No.
And I would credit him this year, especially with just the team without Tatum and to be in the position that they are. But you don't trust them in the sense that they can revert to that team.
I don't, and here's why. I'm not trying to take away. By saying no, you might say, McCarthy, you're poo-pooing the job that Mazzulla's done this year with an undermanned roster compared to what he's had before. I'm not trying to do that. But the reason why I say no is the NBA regular season and the playoffs are a completely different beast. And how much of the Celtics' success this year, now they deserve a lot of credit for, I think adjusting to a little bit more of Jaylen Brown's style. Like there's so many players on this roster who have contributed. That undeniably is a credit not only to the players themselves, but Joe Mazzulla for getting the most out of Ugo Gonzalez and Jordan Walsh and Baylor Shireman.
I love Gonzalez.
And Ron Harper Jr. And it's a credit to the front office, for finding guys like Gonzalez. I mean, Pritchard has obviously turned into, a really nice quality NBA player. You wouldn't have maybe said that 5 years ago. Again, 4-year player that they take out of Oregon in the late first round. Like, they've done so much organizationally that put them in a position to have as much regular season success as they have this year. So when I say that my thought process has not changed on Joe Mazzulla, that doesn't mean that I'm not giving him a lot of credit for what he's done this year, but let's see it in the playoffs. If you have Jason Tatum back, and are you just going to do the same thing you did last time around? That's where he needs to prove himself.
It's tough.
He's proven himself in a different way this regular season, and I want to give credit to him for that, but are you telling me that his fatal flaw, which is his stubbornness, won't come out at some point in the playoffs and that might cost them?
You're
because
right.
it cost them last year.
And it's quite the conundrum.
At what point, it's a little bit easier to not be stubborn when you know you have to rotate 13 guys through every night, because you got to figure out whether it's a Jordan Walsh night or an Ugo night or a Shireman night like that.
Because he did a hockey wholesale change midway through the first quarter as well. There's 4 of the 5 guys just sit on the bench.
So that's and he's done a really nice job navigating that. But
buttons.
What happens when you get to the playoffs and this is the way we play to beat this team, and we're going to pick our 8 guys?
To your point, it was a closer first half than it needed to be against Dallas yesterday, and without knowing it, and it felt like it last night. They were missing a lot of shots. They did chuck up 48 threes yesterday, and anything over 40 for me, I'm an old school guy. That's not the right way to play basketball. It's just my 2 cents. But Dallas, for instance, they shot 35 threes, and they made 2 less. So it's just the game a couple weeks ago was a great example of Celtics basketball. They scored 148 against the Nets. And I looked into that box score. You know how many threes they made in that game where they scored 148 points and shot like 2/3 of their shots were going in? Do you have a guess?
No.
34 threes. They only shot 34 threes. It's because they made 22 of them, and they were going to the basket. I think playing the right way is big to me, and the whole style of NBA is all ring around the rosy. It's all ass backwards for me.
617-779-0985. But undeniably, a really good night for the Celtics last night. And I thought Tatum was, and listen, he had a lot of rust to shake off, but and there were times where he didn't look quite like himself, but that's inevitable. It was not perfect. Last night was not perfect, but last night was a really, really, really good night if you're a Celtics fan. Not sure you would have known it based on some of the commentary leading up to the game yesterday, but I for one, am very happy that Jason Tatum is back, and I'm taking nothing away. Celtics talk has jumped the shark here in town, and I do want to address, I think we need to come to a new understanding between people like me and you, the people, the callers. I think we need to have a reset for all of us on how we talk about the Celtics, and that undeniably starts in big part with people like me. And I want to do my part. I'm going to start here next to help fix what I see. I see something that's wrong, and I'm going to fix it. Damn it! It's Matt McCarthy. We'll continue with more of your thoughts on Jason Tatum's return next.
Stay tuned for more Matt McCarthy on the Sports Hub. Give the guy a call.
617-779-0985.
Matt McCarthy on the Sports Hub.
It's been nearly 300 days. This place was electric tonight. How would you describe this feeling right now?
It was surreal. It was an emotional day. It's been a long journey. God is the greatest. To get me to this point, it was many days I dreamed about this. And for it to finally happen and share it with my family, my teammates, the crowd, it was everything I could have dreamed of.
What can you tell us about that journey you just mentioned?
It's been tough. Emotional. A lot of times I doubted myself. A lot of nights I spent crying. But I just try to keep showing up every day and try to put my best foot forward. And I still got a long way to go, but this is a huge step for me.
Jason Tatum after the game last night, it's a big moment for him, and he deserves it. Obviously, you have to work hard to come back from any injury. An Achilles injury is tough, no doubt about it. Came back in 10 months, and boy, the debate yesterday over whether coming back from an Achilles injury is impressive or not in 10 months. I think we've jumped the shark on Celtics talking this down, if that's the debate. So I'm going to make a promise with you for the rest of the show. If you keep your analysis on planet Earth, we highlight the good things, we acknowledge the bad things, then I won't troll you or talk at you like that. We're not going to do that. I'm not here to debate whether Jason Tatum coming back in 10 months at all is in any way or not impressive. I will say this. I think the dedication that athletes themselves have to rehabbing their bodies, getting their bodies in the best shape they need to be is impressive. I think it's amazing. I certainly could never do it. I'm all for ripping athletes who don't because it is their job, and I think Jason Tatum undeniably did everything in his power to be back in 10 months, and here he is, and he's back, and that's good, and I thought he looked all right, and there we go. We move on. But
you catch any of the Quiet Work documentary on his rehab?
So I will say I think he does open himself up to some criticism for that. Anytime you are going to go about something like that so publicly, you open yourself up for criticism. It's the way it is.
It's tough. There's some things I wouldn't want to put out there, specifically the things with my mom, and I would just, because if I'm a Kevin Garnett guy and I'm an opposing player, I'm going to go there. Now, hopefully Tatum is impervious to that kind of stuff, and he's kind of used to it, and he's acclimated to that kind of style of heckling on the basketball court. He just leave some things out there that I would want to omit and I wouldn't want to publicize, which I kind of give him credit for exposing himself and leaving himself vulnerable to that. It says something about his character.
Well, I also think, though, if you're going to, do something to essentially market yourself and brand yourself and make, even more of a story out of the rehab and the injury return that, than it already is, then yes, you do open yourself up to some form of questions. I'm just not going to question anything about, the timeline, and, I'm not going to debate whether or not it's special or anything. No, I mean,
you were ready
he's back.
Ago.
He's back. But what I will question, though, is the whole, him questioning himself publicly.
Yes.
Talking about the doubt. I'm sure, of course, he's a human being. Of course, we all have some form of doubt. We all have some form of doubt in anything. But how much are you just playing up that doubt for the cameras and for the story? Like, I do think that's fair to question. I'm now just happy that we get to talk about the basketball side of things compared to is this really real? Is it for the documentary? Is it impressive that he's coming back in 10 months? Is that a normal timeline? Is this a special timeline? Is Jason Tatum special? Like, enough. Thank God.
To the marketing component of it, though, it did subtly make me excited for his return. It more so than if it wasn't kind of in my face, I would have, as a green teamer, and yes, the green goose, it oozes from me. I love the Celtics. I bleed green. So I would have been excited for Tatum regardless, but it did get me kind of subtly, like, and I did watch at least 3 of those. There was a couple that came out on Random Sunday on YouTube, so I was able to follow. it did get me excited and pumped. Like, you know what? He has to be practicing. I'll have the Space Jam and then the Michael Jordan when he was making his comeback. Hate to make that comparison, but I'm sure he needed to see it from his teammates and kind of get that uplifting from his teammates. Like, hey, you're going to be that old Tatum. There's that Tatum. And I think it got to be enough is enough with the whole placating of, like, is it time or am I going to make the comeback? He needed that assurance from the teammates, and the practicing, I think, did help. And hopefully this is, it's going to be not too long in the distant future where we see a normalish Tatum. I think there was some trepidation last night and a little bit more passive than I would have liked. Now, granted, the passes were good. You could tell that the kickouts, he's praying for those shots to go in or don't make the extra pass, but he did make the right passes to people slashing down low as well.
He almost always does that.
Yeah, and he barely turns the ball over as well. A couple.
He makes his teammates better, and that's who Tatum has always been. And I mean, you've seen it. I would go back to the 2024 championship run.
Right.
A lot of people criticize Tatum because he was not the guy, he was not the man, he wasn't the one putting the ball in the hoop, but
facilitated damn well.
He consistently made the right play. He makes the right basketball decision more often than not.
He attracts attention.
He does.
Defense,
yeah,
he does a great job.
He's a really and I think a lot of star players in the NBA don't do that. And it's one of my favorite parts of Tatum's game, which really does lend itself well to coming back. The whole listen, the Celtics I think they're going to figure it out. How you reincorporate Brown and Tatum together. I mean, those guys have played so much basketball together over the course of close to a decade now. I think they'll be able to figure it out. Now, one of the reasons I think they'll be able to figure it out is because I just don't think Jason Tatum, by NBA superstar standards, Jason Tatum does not have an ego in comparison to a lot of other guys in the league. Of course, he has an ego. He's a star player in the league, but compared to other guys, he really doesn't. And he's not afraid to facilitate. He's not afraid to make the right play, make the right decision, set his teammates up to succeed. He's a good passer. He's a good rebounder. He's a good all-around basketball player. So if he's not as dynamic offensively as he's always been, and folks, he's not going to be. I mean, I know he's back after 10 months and he's attacked the rehab, and that's impressive, undeniably. Credit to him for being back out there. And medicine is what in rehab and athletic training and sports performance is at the peak it's ever been. But he's not going to be 100%, probably not for the rest of this year, probably not for a while. He's not going to be 100%. He might be back out there, but it might be another year, who knows, until he's the same player. Frankly, he might never, ever truly be the same player. He might hopefully be 97% of it, but he might not ever truly be that, coming with a repaired Achilles. I don't know. But what I do know is he's going to make his teammates better. And that's going to really help this team as they navigate the return of Jason Tatum and navigating having what will be somewhat of a lesser version of him. He will make his teammates better, and that I am not at all concerned about. He has no problem facilitating, and that is a good thing, and it's going to help this team, and it's going to help him as he kind of finds his way again. And I thought there were moments last night where you saw that. So positive night, undeniably, for the Celtics last night, and I'll take it as a Celtics fan. I don't know why you wouldn't or how you wouldn't. 617-779-0985. I see on the phone lines. Hang tight. I will take care of you. It's Matt McCarthy hanging out till 6 o'clock.
You're listening to Matt McCarthy on the Sports Hub.
Coleman.
You're listening to Matt McCarthy.
This is brutal.
On Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Matt McCarthy, hanging out till 6 o'clock. We got room for you at 617-779-0985. Kevin on the road. Kevin.
Yeah, hey, good afternoon. Two brief questions, and then I'll hang up. When did this 3-point offense start? Was it with Missoula or Stevens, or a combination of both? It's kind of annoying at times, especially when you had Marcus Smart going bombs away. Mm-hmm. The second question is, did you ever get out to Rota Springs and Sterling for the ice cream?
I have not been out in that neck of the woods at all, Kevin, but I appreciate the recommendation. Next time I'm out in the greater Worcester area out on 190, I will definitely check it out. This started, really it goes back to, around the NBA. It's the Splash Brothers and Curry and Thompson, that brought in this era of basketball. And Stevens is certainly a believer in it too, but it has gone to the extreme under Missoula. So, I put a lot of it on Missoula, but undeniably Stevens is a fan of it as well. And most organizations in the NBA are a fan of it as well, because it's the numbers. 3 is greater than 2. I don't claim to be the smartest tool in the shed, the sharpest tool in the shed, that is. But I know that 3 is more than 2, which is why they like shooting threes more. It's about the math, for sure. How about Stanley in Taunton? Hey, Stanley.
Matt, how are you, sir?
How you doing, Stanley?
Nothing much. Gonna pick up my 3-year-old and call it a day, man. I'm kind of disappointed in the UConn basketball team, man. Woof.
That would be a Tim McCone call. I'm sure he'll happily take that call on Monday, Stanley.
But realistically, though, I'm glad that Jason Tatum is finding his groove, got a double-double right off rip. Just fun fact, everybody, he has more rebounds average than Karl Anthony Towns. But I just wanted to ask, do you think he will be on minutes restriction until the playoffs starts? That's number one. Number two, can we put to bed that Jaylen Brown is never going to win an MVP because nobody likes the Celtics at all? And
I don't think, and I'm going to let you go on that, Stanley. I don't think Jaylen Brown is going to win an MVP because you hope he's here in Boston for the rest of his career, and he is ultimately the number 2 player. So, yeah, I don't see an MVP in Jaylen Brown's future, and that is what it is. It's my hope, my sincere hope, that Brown and Tatum are, here for the vast majority of their careers. And I also, as great as Jaylen Brown has been, and he's been tremendous this year, I just don't know, if he's truly that player. That's not a criticism of him. He's a top 15 player in the league, and, should have been on Team USA last year and as a finals MVP. I think he's got a finals MVP. That says a lot about him. How about Tom in Quincy? Hey, Tom.
Hey, what's up, guys? So, listen, I actually do agree with the sentiment that Tatum may slow down the rhythm of the team. However, I'm okay with that because, when it comes to playoffs, it's the role players that generally tend to disappear. So, at the end of the day, we're a better team with Tatum than without him. I think it's ridiculous that people would even suggest that we're a worse team with him.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that, Tom, and we're up against it, so I got to let you go on that. Yes, they are a better team with Jason Tatum. I will take, undeniably the, potential step back over the course of the regular season, for the hopes of a higher ceiling in the playoffs. I'm not convinced the Celtics are going to win a title this year. I'm not convinced they're going to win the East. Again, I just still think that's a lot to ask out of a player coming off a torn Achilles. And yes, he's back and it's 10 months. And, there were moments last night where he looked good. And there were moments where he looked rusty. And I fully expect that. I don't know if I'd be shocked if you get 100% of Jason Tatum at any point, any time this year, no matter how you manage him. Minutes restriction, no minutes restriction. Whatever it may be, I just think it's an unrealistic ask. He is still human after all, and all of these guys are still human. So, but I will take what I saw last night. That's for sure. I don't know how you couldn't feel good about it. And he will help this team in the long run. Whether or not he hurts them in the short term, to me, it's kind of irrelevant because, and Joe Mazzulla said it last night. He was like, he was always coming back this year. It's like, yes, let's put that. I'm just glad we can put a little of that to bed and put a little of that to rest. 617-779-0985. We'll continue to take your thoughts on Jason Tatum, on his return to the Celtics. I do want to get to the NFL offseason, though, which we have not hit on yet in the program. Max Crosby getting traded to the Ravens, moves around the league today. Patriots making a trade last night, which I think, went a little under the radar because it's a Friday night and, it's, oh, wait, they traded Bradbury kind of thing, and it's a center, but I do think that's indicative of something to come. I do want to get to that with your thoughts, anything on the NFL offseason, and really anything you want for the next hour. It's Matt McCarthy here on the Sports Hub. No commercials, just the headlines here.
From the Town Fair Tire Studio, the game is on the Sports Hub.
Goes to the backhand and score! Two-hand slam!
Boston's home for sports. WBC FM and HD Boston. I love this team. 98.5, the Sports Hub, a Beasley Media Group station. Essential Sports Hub headline presented by Celsius Energy Drinks.
Bruins with a 3-1 win over the Capitals. Victor Arvidsson's breakaway goal was the difference. Pavel Zacha scored on the power play, 22 saves for Jeremy Swayman in the win. Bruins head to Pittsburgh tomorrow. Celtics host the Cavs, or will take on the Cavs tomorrow afternoon, coming off last night's win over the Mavericks in Jason Tatum's return. Move around the NFL today with the Packers acquiring linebacker Zaire Franklin from the Indianapolis Colts. Max Crosby going to the Raiders, going to the Ravens last night. Patriots trading center James Bradbury last night for a 5th-round pick. And at the World Baseball Classic, Team USA later on today will take on Great Britain. That is an 8 o'clock start. Red Sox Romy Gonzalez potentially headed for some shoulder surgery, seeing a surgeon in the coming days. Not good news there for Gonzalez and his potential return this season for the Red Sox. Headlines are brought to you by Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Enjoy quick and convenient vehicle maintenance this month. Visit NewEnglandOilChange.com for 15% off your drive-through oil change at Valvoline Instant Oil Change, the official oil change of busy people. I'm Matt McCarthy on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Actually coaching the game, or it's just that is. I feel so strongly about that. I can't even tell you.
Boston Talk Sports here.
What do we got?
The Sports Hub.
Matt McCarthy.
I'm going after everybody.
They say off the air he's a nice guy.
And there will be no mercy.
But you know otherwise. It's Matt McCarthy on the Sports Hub.
NFL offseason about to begin. Legal tampering. It feels a little oxymoronic. And if there's one person who knows a little something about moronic, it's me, Matt McCarthy. Hi, how you doing? We're here until 6 o'clock, 617-779-0985. Do want to get into the World Baseball Classic a little bit later on. Got some thoughts on how to improve the tournament. I think overall it's a good tournament. Group stage can get a little rough at times. Some of the quality of competition. Masataka Yoshida is raking right now. He's really enjoying seeing the pitchers from Chinese Taipei and Korea. He is
a little home cooking over there. I tell you, I was making that point to my lady, and I'm waking up at 5 a.m. here. I am stuck on this WBC, and it does get me excited for this upcoming season. You would think the Red Sox have a spot for this guy, or he can add to his value because he looks so good in this tournament. Masataka Yoshida, I'm happy that you mentioned him.
Man loves facing A-ball quality pitching. He destroys it.
Those Koreans though, they're all right. And I mean, they did put the mercy.
Did you see that pitch? You see that pitch he hit out today?
It was a little meatball-y.
But not a major league pitch.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was on the back end, right? Suzuki had, they went back-to-back and 3 in that inning. Yoshida's been incredible. I am going to, I'll plead the fifth when it comes to the quality of pitching, and I'll plead ignorance there. But, those are okay teams. I would say Chinese Taipei, they competed or at least shown that Czechia, that's not worth anything there. But and then Korea, that those are worthy teams. It's a worthy group. So I don't want to dismiss it, and we'll see hopefully later in the tournament how Yoshida progresses. They're batting him cleanup over there. That's it's exciting.
Hitter.
It's exciting to see him perform. You're not going to take Yoshida down with me. I am loving it.
Except he's not going to play for the Red Sox this year. It is interesting.
I know.
Cleanup
What's the
hitter
spot for him?
Cleanup hitter for Team Japan, and he's not going to
fourth outfielder for us, right?
Yeah, barely going to play for the Red Sox. We'll get a little bit more into that as we continue here. 617-779-0985. But I do want to get into the Patriots trade of Garrett Bradbury. I mean, I can't believe they got a fifth for him. Did I say James Bradbury, or who was James Bradbury?
Oh, that's a good question. It sounds like I think of Cadbury donut, the candy. James Bradbury. I'll have to Google that.
Former football player, cornerback. Wasn't he the guy who got the holding penalty in the Super Bowl a few years ago? That was James Bradbury. That was him. 99.9% certain that was him.
Yeah, Philly.
Garrett Bradbury. Patriots center. No more. As they trade him to the Bears for a fifth-round pick. I can't believe they got a fifth for him. I really can't. Like, getting a fifth-round pick for... Now, he was better last year than I thought he was going to be. He was a little bit more stable than I thought. I mean, the reports on Bradbury coming out of Minnesota were not good. The PFF grades were rough. The folks who really watched the trenches from around the NFL didn't exactly... there was a lot of pushback on that. And... overall, I mean, for the majority of the season, I actually thought they got a little more out of him than I was anticipating. But I will take a fifth rounder in return for him. And what I find interesting about this is what this ultimately means, for the offensive line. We're just basing it off Elliott Wolf's comments at the combine. They seem to think Will Campbell's a left tackle, or they're not quite willing to admit yet that he's not a left tackle. I would fully plan on Campbell being the left tackle in week 1 next year. So if that is the case, and by the way, they might be right about that. I mean, the real debate on Campbell is going to be how much of his playoff performance was related to the injury, and undeniably, at least part of it was, maybe a significant portion of it was, but how much of it was injury versus the fact that maybe, just maybe, he actually isn't a left tackle in the NFL. And once he faced better competition, and he did face some really good competition in the playoffs, he got exposed. So that's going to be a debate we're going to be having all summer long. It's probably a debate that's not going to be answered for another year at a minimum. So I guess I'll just say this. If Campbell is going to be the left tackle, I want them, and they need to, make a significant investment at left guard. Like, you have to help him out more, because we don't know. We don't know if he can play that position long term in the NFL. There are reasonable questions about it. So by trading Garrett Bradbury to the Bears, I would assume that this signals that Jared Wilson is getting moved to center. And I understand that we focused a lot of attention on Will Campbell in the playoffs, and rightfully so. But Wilson was no good in the playoffs either. So the Patriots absolutely cannot run it back with Campbell and Wilson next to each other. If they're still committed to the idea that Campbell's a left tackle, or they don't want to admit maybe that the 4th overall pick might actually be a guard, which would be a really tough admission for a front office and a coaching staff to make. I mean, you can't invest the 4th overall pick in a guard. That is, I mean, we talked about it ad nauseum. I mean, yeah, he might be an all-pro guard. You don't take an all-pro guard 4th overall. I mean, that's Looney Tunes. It's crazy. But if they're not willing to admit it, or they're willing to give Campbell every opportunity to prove that it was the injury, he can play the position, they really need to help him out. And the best way to help out a left tackle is to give him a good left guard to improve that spot. So now you need to figure out who the guard is next to him and move Wilson to center. That, to me, is what this move ultimately signals.
I am with you on the point of Jared Wilson on that left side wasn't giving Will Campbell any favors there. They were both growing up there together as rookies, and to have rookies on the left, 2/5 of your line on the same side of the line, let alone. It definitely was a detriment to Campbell's development. He could definitely use, to your point again, a veteran type like a Morgan Moses, but in the form of a left guard. I think that can go a long way in his development, because I don't want to give up on T-Rex arms. I don't. I'm a vertically challenged person myself, persevering. But
you have normal length arms, George. I'd actually argue you have long arms for a man of your stature.
I appreciate that. Yes, all 5'4" of me, right?
But those are some nice arms there. I'm going to tell you right there.
Grade A arm talent. I caught you there on the weekday show, and nothing like McCarthy to come in and fill in the spots for two hosts. Let me tell you that. Well, I could speak for that in the weekend, obviously, in one-man show over here, tap dancing and doing all I do back here. But to your point there, left guard, and what I was telling you pre-show is, it does provide flexibility, because if the Patriots were going to admit that they did fault, putting Will Campbell as the left tackle, they're ultimately going to move him to guard. Ultimately, would depend on the level of tackle talent that they bring in at the left tackle position. I just think that it provides some flexibility. I do think it is a given that Jared Wilson is going to assume the center position, so it does leave that void on the left side of the line. I do think that they probably are going to fill it with a free agent guard, though, to be sure, just to at least give Campbell another year of development and to see if he can't grow and to see if he doesn't get more comfortable in his position. A lot of Matt Light in him in terms of like the undersized going into his career, and is he really a guard or a tackle? And obviously Matt Light was every bit of feistiness and Super Bowl talent that we could have prayed for. Hopefully Will Campbell has that in him. It is tough, though, because I think that he was also injured on the back end of the year, and that wasn't helping him as well. And the rookies on the left side of the line, they definitely going to have to go away from that. So Bradbury was expendable. We didn't see him here for the long-term future. We'll see what happens.
Pick is just crazy for him. I mean, good for them.
Good for them, right? In Chicago, what are they doing? Then the DJ Moore fiasco over there to go to Buffalo. We'll see how that pans out.
So the DJ Moore trade I find interesting. The Patriots were rumored to be potential. I mean, you never know, connected to him. I'm certainly glad they did not land Moore. I could take a real hard pass on giving up a second-round pick for DJ Moore. It probably only emboldens Howie Roseman in Philadelphia more to try and hold on and get as much for A.J. Brown as possible. But McCone and I had this debate on Wednesday. I think offensive line still is the number one need, and I would be, and I don't generally believe in taking guards in the first round. I just don't. I mean, for every Logan Mankins, you're going to find a Cole Strange,
and they were picking on the back end that year too.
But given the performance of that offensive line, a significant investment needs to be made at left guard, and that can come either in the form of a first-round guard in the draft, which, frankly, they may have already drafted in Will Campbell, or via free agency. So
it's tough, though, to set him up, though, with another youngin right there, learning on the fly. It is a tough ask.
You make a good point, George. Like, is a veteran guy next to Campbell, is that worth it more than maybe, the higher ceiling of spending, a first-round pick? To me, I'd be willing to do it on a guard. But you're right. Like, two young guys on that side of the line, are things a little bit different if Campbell has a veteran next to him who can walk him through that, who can get him through those tough moments. I just don't know.
Looking at the free agent class and observing it from afar, though, I think Kevin Zeitler would be a welcome addition. Tennessee, both Cleveland guards are available via free agency.
Zeitler would have played under Vrabel. And
you would think, right?
I'd have to check that. I mean, I'm certain he did. I mean, Zeitler is not
21.
Okay, so no, he has not played under Vrabel. I mean, but 35-year-old entering his 36th season. I mean, you worry about guys like that too, because they get to camp and all of a sudden they say, I'm good. I've had enough of this. I mean, it happens every single year in the NFL. You spend some money on a guy and he gets to camp and says, I'm not putting my body through this anymore. I'm good. I'm not, coming out here in late July and doing this. Thanks, but no thanks. I'm gonna walk away. So I would be a little bit concerned about that. But this signals at least some level of investment on the offensive line, which undeniably the Patriots need. To me, it is still the number one need. Max Crosby off the board. I actually thought pass rusher was an even more important need than wide receiver. Let's get into how this is all shaping out here for the Patriots with your thoughts at 617-779-0985. It's Matt McCarthy here on the Sports Hub.
More Matt McCarthy on the way on the Sports Hub.
Nice play, Renfro.
Hot takes.
This team blows.
And passion advice.
Shave your mustache, dude. It sucks.
Matt McCarthy on the Sports Hub.
Matt McCarthy hanging out until 6 o'clock, 617-779-0985. George Sepulveda producing the program today. Let's go to you. How about John in the car? John, how you doing?
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Quick comment, quick question. So the question is, with the Red Sox going into this season, I think Aroldis Chapman was a surprise for everybody given how late in his career he is and how effective he was for us in the closer role. So just curious, your thoughts about him going into the season, what factor he's going to help play in their success. The quick comment is, I just want to tell you that you are an underrated and underappreciated talent in the Boston sports radio market, and I have thoroughly enjoyed listening to you over the years. So thank you so much. I'm going to hang up and listen to your response.
Hey, John, trust me when I say I really appreciate that. It's very nice of you and very kind of you to say. In regards to Chapman, I have a level of concern with it, for the reasons that you laid out. He was unbelievable last year. Better than anybody ever could have imagined. And I liked the signing in the first place. I was probably higher on the Chapman signing than most. And he had one of the best seasons of his career at 36, 37 years old. And I'm worried about it in the sense that it's completely unrealistic for him to replicate what he did last year. And they were automatic. They had a lead, 8th inning, game over. Because Whitlock, once they moved him, back into the 1-inning role in about mid-May, if memory serves, was excellent as well. They did not lose when they were up in the 8th inning until game 2 of the Yankees series came along and they pushed Whitlock to his absolute limit and he cracked because Bayo could only give them 28 pitches and they tried to make it up by pushing Whitlock and he just wasn't that. So in regards to what my level of concern is with Chapman, I'll also extend it to Whitlock too, just because obviously when he's been great, he's been outstanding. But that has only been 2 years of his career. I worry about him going to the WBC. Not at all concerned about hitters, but always concerned about pitchers going to the WBC, pitching meaningful innings this early on. I guess I'm not as concerned about relievers as I, of course, would be about starters. I'm really worried about Brian Bayo, pitching in the tournament as a starting pitcher. These guys need their work. That's why spring training exists. Hitters don't need spring training. Pitchers need spring training. Hitters need, a week or two. They don't need, the full 6 weeks of spring training. So I am worried that the Red Sox are not going to get what they got out of the back end of their bullpen last year. And I think that's a reasonable worry because it was just so good that I think it's going to be hard to replicate. Chapman's a year older. Whitlock has been so up and down, pitching at the tournament. And they haven't really done anything to address the rest of that bullpen. So, this probably only highlights even more maybe the decision to send Tolley to Worcester. Is he a reliever? Is he a starter? I think he's a starter, but could he help them in the bullpen right away for a team that might need a little bit, of help? And Chapman and Whitlock might need a little bit more support down there. I do worry about that just a little bit. So it's a very reasonable, question about the Red Sox. It's still not as big as whether or not they can actually hit and hit for power. That's still the number one question hanging over this team. But back into the bullpen, as it is with every team, you should always have some level of trepidation exiting camp. It's just the nature of the sport. It's the way it is. But those guys are dynamite last year. They were awesome. How about Joey in Kingston, my guy? Joey, how you doing?
Hey, Mr. McCarthy, how you doing? How you doing, George?
Good. George is great.
And I concur with what that guy just said about you, Matt. Totally agree with you.
Thank you, Joey.
So listen, work day for me. Been listening to two of the best today during my travels and my work thing. So Matt, you said a little while ago, last hour call in, talk about anything. So I'm a big trivia guy, and forgive me if I missed this because my wife called. She was all excited the Bruins won. She loves them. So we kind of talked for 20 minutes, but I don't think this came up on the radio. I'm a big kind of trivia history guy. 39 years ago today, and George, I know, and he's great with his bumper music and his music, so I'm guessing he's probably going to get this. 39 years ago today, history was made in the music industry.
Ooh. Okay, so this is 1987. This is
yes,
March.
On this date, 1987, history was made.
George, you have a guess?
Yeah, this is the time of Mike Tyson. It is a little bit before my time, to be sure.
All right, I'll give you a hint. It involves rap music.
Oh,
Beastie Boys?
It's Beastie Boys.
Excellent.
Oh.
The Beastie Boys. The Beastie Boys made number one in the Billboard. It was the first time a rap album ever did that.
Joey, listen, as even as a 90s kid, I'm proud of that. So.
Well, listen, I was probably big in college at the time. I know that was probably like you weren't born at the time, but in college, that had to have been a big song.
Oh, I'm sure.
Well, the album, but what is it? What's the song? Your Best Porno Mag.
Yeah, Fight for Your Right.
Fight for Your Rights.
Which still is, and Joey, I got to let you go on that. Always good to hear from you. Great arena rock. Tremendous arena rock. Like when they bust that out at the Bruins game and everybody belts that out, that's a fun time. Always good to hear from Joey in Kingston. George, you're good with that type of stuff. The random trivia. I mean,
I love music.
I do too.
I like to think my palate is lovely. I don't get enough credit for it, I'll tell you.
You know what? I'll say that you don't get enough credit. Your rejoins are spot on. I mean, you came in earlier like I'm gonna give you stuff like that you like. I'm like, George, just hit me with your stuff, man. Like I want to hear your stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate earning the trust from all the talent. I definitely cater and pander to you guys.
You don't have to pander to me. There's no need to pander to me.
I say music though is good and timeless, no matter what the genre is, right? That's I'm seeking out good sounds, and it never hurts to play the hits.
Always have to. It's what we do in this business. We play the hits. Just from a music perspective, from a sports talk radio perspective, it's. Why do you think we still talk about Spygate 10 years later, 20 years later, whatever it is? Play the hits, damn it. I won't. Not on my watch. No question. No Spygate talk today. No questioning of Jason Tatum and his injury timeline and whether it's special or not. No. I get a reprieve. I demand it.
What fake scandal can we dish up right now? Hey, the Patriots cheapening out because they did cut Stephon Diggs on a supposedly affordable kind of contract. To me, I think that they got out of it in time and kind of, projecting ahead is like, what he did in the back end of this season and kind of that downward trend, that downward dip. They got out of it. That's not going to be our $20+ million receiver. He isn't a bona fide number one. So we'll move onward. Now, the question gets to be, do they invest in the trade market or it seems like it's Alec Pierce or bust for the free agent market?
I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on Diggs for now. If you replace Diggs, that's one thing. If you don't replace Diggs, then yes, I mean, let the criticism begin over the money. I mean,
are you in on Alec Pierce?
I am, but he's a flawed player. He's a limited player.
It's a wild card. It's like taking a flyer, I would say. And now it is an upgrade as into the wide receiver room as what we have now. But I'm not sold on Alec Pierce.
I also think he's a fit with Drake May because he's a downfield receiver and May wants to push the ball down the field. So I really do like that pairing. But I mean, the guy had 47 catches last year. I mean, that's a number one receiver has 90 to 100 catches. I mean,
correct.
Stephon Diggs, who, again, has caught a lot of flack for his playoff performance. I think it's in part because a lot of us are afraid to criticize Drake May for his playoff performance. It's a lot easier to criticize the wide receiver who we were pretty certain they were going to cut.
Bingo.
Compared to criticizing the quarterback.
That you've gone down that road because I think May has not been criticized enough for the poor play in the playoffs.
I can't believe he's.
I kept waiting for a better moment, an improved performance. What we got maybe like one half of the Chargers game. I think I kept waiting, and it's like moving the goalposts. Okay, we got them to win with the defense again. We win the AFC Championship with the defense again. We have to do something offensively in the Super Bowl. Nope.
This is going to sound like a trolling comment. It's not. If they played better quarterbacks on their route to the Super Bowl, a better quarterback along the way, they would have lost because in the end, I mean, Herbert was worse than May. And May wasn't good in the Chargers game. Stroud was worse than May. And I mean, how many times did May put Stroud was awful. If you play if you played Sam Darnold on that day, you don't win that game.
No.
And I don't think Sam Darnold played all that well in the Super Bowl, but he was better than May. So
it's sad to admit, but we didn't deserve to be in that Super Bowl the way we played.
So, all right, yes and no. In a normal year,
we're not there.
The Patriots aren't there.
Right.
But you can only play. This is what, It's the problem I have with the schedule talk. Because, and we've addressed it a million times, yes, their schedule was weak. But in the end, I can't hold that against them because they beat who they were supposed to beat. They beat who was put in front of them.
Right.
And it was just a year in the AFC where, I mean, frankly, they were the best team in the AFC.
Right. Ravens
now,
and
maybe
Chiefs
if,
didn't make it.
Maybe if Knicks plays, they lose that game in Denver. They might. But I think the Patriots were a better team than the Broncos. Now, it really probably in that scenario would have just come down to a fluky tiebreaker that because you lost to the Raiders in September, that's why you went to Mile High in January in a blizzard. Now, it would have been a blizzard here, but, playing that Broncos team. And that's a tough spot for anybody. Had Knicks played that game, I thought they probably would have lost, but I think the Patriots were a bit, you put them on a neutral field or you put the game in Foxborough, the Patriots win that game. They were the best team in the AFC, but that doesn't mean that there was the typical competition in the AFC. So they deserve to be in the Super Bowl. Like I don't want to hear that
It
they didn't
discredits them, right?
Yeah, I mean it is what it is. I mean it's like
Unworthy.
Who else are you going to put in their place?
Right, and then
nobody was more deserving than them. But
the Pats so happened to break their way, though. A la like '96. You avoided the Broncos with Jacksonville and things like that.
Sure, I mean they caught Knicks getting hurt was undeniably a break. I think we can all acknowledge that. But I think they were a better team than the Broncos for the majority of the year, and and maybe they still win that game if Knicks plays. I don't know, but I'll put it to you this way. Denver loses that game in pretty similar fashion, if not even worse fashion, than the Patriots do in the Super Bowl. I think whoever came out of the AFC, and it was just a weird year like this, that the top 4 or 5 teams in the NFC would have rolled them.
Probably, yeah. I mean, my biggest fear.
If that were the Rams, it would have been the same result. If that were the Eagles,
Sadly.
and they were a mess, but like the Eagles would have beaten whoever came out of the AFC.
Right.
If that were then the Niners had issues, and I mean, I guess I shouldn't really bet on Shanahan, but I mean, even the Bears, who I don't believe in Caleb Williams, but he was better than Drake May in these playoffs.
Consolation to come out of the AFC playoffs, though. Sean McDermott being fired from the Bills. I think that's incredible. Also, John Harbaugh not being retained in Baltimore and Tomlin resigning in Pittsburgh. It's interesting to see how they develop with the subsequent coaches.
It's a transitional phase in the conference, and it's still the Patriots' conference to take for the next couple of years if they're serious about it this offseason, which I do want to get into. 617-779-0985. How aggressive are they going to be? They need to be, based on what George is just saying, coaching changes all over the place. You've got the Chiefs trading their number 1 corner. Mahomes coming off a torn ACL. By the way, are we going to do? Are we going to talk about Mahomes and his time frame for return? Is that going to be, or is it going to be special or not special for doing that? I'm just curious about that when that comes across. Anyway, we'll continue. It's Matt McCarthy here on the Sports Hub.
Stay tuned for more Matt McCarthy on the Sports Hub. He's got the instructions you need.
Wrap that meat.
Matt McCarthy on the Sports Hub.
Well, you can cross Max Crosby off your wish list for the Patriots. Of course, traded last night for 2 first-round picks. That's a haul. Raiders got an absolute haul for that. But that was probably, if we're talking about players out there, we're getting moved. Crosby would have been my number one target for the Patriots because I actually think, so much is being made of the wide receiver room, and undeniably they need, more help there with Diggs out of the picture at this point. But I do think their trenches, especially on the offensive side of the ball, obviously was a problem. But even on the defensive side of the ball in the playoffs, they generated a lot of pressure, but they blitzed a lot, and they faced some subpar offensive lines along the way, and they covered really well. So actually, I'm not convinced the Patriots' pass rush is quite where it needs to be. And I would prioritize that over a number one receiver. But I guess you can go down the list and say A.J. Brown is a little bit more worth it now. I don't know if I'm giving up 2 first-round picks for A.J. Brown. I shouldn't say I don't know. I know I'm not giving up 2 first-round picks for A.J. Brown. I'd so much rather spend the money and not the draft capital on a guy like Alec Pierce, who is not the player that A.J. Brown is and is not a perfect fit, but certainly helps make you better because I think this team has a lot of needs. You need to address the offensive line. You need to address the pass rush. You need to address, certainly the wide receiver room. So, giving up that type of return, if this is ultimately going to set the market here, 2 first-round picks for, players of Max Crosby and A.J. Brown's status, I'm probably pushing away from the table on that, which ultimately sends you a little bit more towards free agency where you're going to have to overpay. And that becomes the real debate with Alec Pierce. If you're looking at him, you're saying if you want to question whether or not he's a true number one, I think you are absolutely within your right to do it. And I think you're probably right about it, to be totally honest. A true number one receiver goes out there and catches 90 or 100 balls a year. Pierce does not. He's a downfield threat, but he is what I would call, again, he's going to be a $30 million a year player, 25 to 30 million, but he's a flawed player. But you don't often get perfect players in free agency. Guys like that generally don't hit free agency. They've been paid long beforehand. So you often do need to overpay. And that's what the Patriots are going to have to do to improve this team with the AFC looking, as we sit here today, and obviously things are going to change in the next week, the AFC does look weak. And I would point to the Patriots' history in the past. They absolutely are willing to spend some money. They had a massive offseason last year. They had a record-setting offseason in 2021. But Robert Kraft has come out and said, and I'm paraphrasing here, that if you go over the cap in 1 year, which is ultimately, well, let's be honest, the cap doesn't really exist in the NFL. It's there, but you can maneuver it in a number of different ways, as Bill Belichick said. Kraft has essentially come out and said if you go over the cap, meaning if you spend a lot of money in 1 year, you want it to even out over the course of 3 years. That has been their business model for a long time. They don't really do back-to-back big-time off seasons. If there's a time to buck that trend, it's now. With a young quarterback, 3rd year, close to an MVP quality season from him, you need to invest significant money and capital in protecting him. You need to get him more weapons now that Diggs is gone. So I hope the Diggs move is indicative of a bigger thing to come. I fear it's not. I fear it's all right, we need to start pulling back here a little bit because we spent a lot of money last year and now we need to pull back, and that's kind of how we do it. And we are going to have to pay Drake May next year, and kind of with an eye towards the future. Well, you never know. Oftentimes the present may be your best future. This may be your best crack at it. You don't know, maybe Mahomes comes back and is the player he was and more, and Kansas City becomes a force again in a year, or Buffalo finally figures it out, or, the Ravens go out and trade for Max Crosby and, the new coaching situation figures it out, and Lamar all of a sudden is a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs. I'm not counting on that, but let's just put it out there for the sake of discussion. And you sit there and you miss an opportunity in what appears to be a weaker AFC as of right now. now's the time to pounce. Now's the time to spend the money. But it's real easy for me to spend somebody else's money. 617-779-0985. Number of you on the phone line. We'll take care of you before we're out of here at 6 o'clock. It's John in Franklin. Hey, John.
Hey, yeah, I think the Pats made the mistake getting rid of Diggs. I mean, he knows the offense. Drake and him had a good relationship. He was a leader. I don't know, maybe there's something else behind that. And the other question I had for you is, the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles was a huge Pats fan. He grew up in this area. Does that play into it at all? Thank you.
In regards to him trading A.J. Brown to the Patriots and giving them a break, no. This is business. Come on. That's not going to happen. What, yeah, because Jeff Lurie was maybe interested in buying the Celtics, and because he's from here, he's going to, give Robert a break? He's going to tell Howie Roseman not to do his job. He's going to go in to the best general manager in football and tell him to get less in return? Come on. These guys are all competitive. Just because Jeff Lurie, was he even a Patriots fan? Did the Patriots exist? How old is Jeff Lurie? I'm serious. Oh, let's look this up. He is 74 years old. Patriots came into existence in 1960. So when he was falling in love with sports, guess who wasn't here? The Patriots weren't here. But I'm sure if you wanted to ask him about, Ted Williams, maybe he could tell you about that. Or, Russell and Havlicek. I'm sure he's got a lot of takes on that and has a soft spot in his heart. How does he feel about the Patriots? Not strongly enough to give you A.J. Brown for a song. That's for sure. 617-779-0985. How about Mark in New Hampshire? Hey, Mark.
Dude, I appreciate your love for the Patriots. I do.
Thanks, man.
But to say that the NFC would have wiped, any of the top four would have wiped the AFC is just untrue, right? I mean, look, the Patriots have a great year, but they were the fourth best team in the AFC. It just worked out scheduling-wise that they didn't see them.
Who was better?
The Jaguars, the Bills, and the Broncos with the starting quarterback were all better, right? Doesn't mean that the Patriots weren't good, but they have their holes, and you hit it earlier. It's their offensive line, dude. Yeah. If you don't take care of the offensive line, you're in trouble.
Yeah, no, Mark, you are totally right about that. I mean, I guess I'll just disagree about Buffalo. That team there was something wrong with them. Wrong. Fair point on the Broncos if they have Bo Nix. Maybe you're right. I mean, that might be wrong on that. I don't know. And the Jaguars, I guess I'll believe it when I see it with that frame. I mean, that's a team that did lose a home playoff game in the wild card round. So I don't know if I can truly say they were the best team in the conference and they lost to a Buffalo team that was broken in half. Bad coaching. You got Josh Allen turning the ball over left and right. There was something fundamentally wrong with that Bills team. Now, should Buffalo have been the best team in the AFC? Absolutely. Baltimore falls apart. Burrow's hurt again. The Chiefs were a wreck, and then Mahomes gets hurt. I mean, if I'm in Buffalo today, I'm lighting myself on fire with the way that season went. I mean, because it's just, and trust me, I have a lot of Bills fans, friends, went to school up there. They are broken right now. Devastated. The texts I was getting throughout the playoffs as the Patriots were advancing and then the Bills, it's like, one of my friends said, it's just going to be like this forever, isn't it? And I said, yeah, it is. Just accept it. I mean, you are who you are, but what an incredible missed opportunity for Buffalo. But I cannot say that Buffalo was better. I mean, because they were a mess this year. They basically stumbled in. They're 6th seed, the state of this AFC. I mean, come on. I can't even have a home playoff game. So, yeah, I mean, you and I will disagree a little bit on that, but you couldn't be more right about the offensive line. It is the number one need. And talk about the wide receivers all you want. Blame Stephon Diggs for his, poor playoff performance. I put a lot more of that on the offensive line and Drake May, who just was not good enough in the playoffs. I'm sorry, 7 fumbles in 4 games, 4 picks in 4 games, 2 turnovers. You're asking essentially 2 turnovers a game in the playoffs. I mean, you can't be doing that. So I can put a lot of that on the line. I think a lot of us do. We can put some of that on the fact that, yeah, maybe their skill position players aren't as elite as you want them to be, but if your quarterback's putting the ball on the ground 7 times in 4 games, you could have Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, and Julian Edelman in the slot, And it's not going to matter if your quarterback keeps putting the ball on the ground every time he drops back. 617-779-0985. We'll continue. I have some thoughts I need to get to on the World Baseball Classic, which I think is an enjoyable watch. It is what it is, but it's an enjoyable watch. And some Red Sox news today that I do think is significant that's being a little bit overlooked. We'll do that next.
You're listening to Matt McCarthy on the Sports Hub.
This hour of the Sports Hub is brought to you by Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Enjoy quick and convenient vehicle maintenance this month. Visit NewEnglandOilChange.com.
Listening to Matt McCarthy. Give the guy a call.
617-779-0985.
Matt McCarthy on the Sports Hub.
On the ground through the right side, Anthony a base hit. Schwarber will come in to score. Station to station go the Americans. Bregman stops at third. Raleigh at second, and Roman Anthony back-to-back trips to the plate with an RBI base hit.
Couple singles last night for Roman Anthony in his World Baseball Classic debut. Team USA, I don't want to say squeaks by Brazil, because did you watch any of this game last night, George?
It took a while, yes.
It did take a while.
I'll tell you this, the setup that I had, immaculate. I am very fatherly. I will let my boys take over the TV, all that. I tell you, I have, in my dining area and living room, I have two TVs, very close proximity, tuned into Fox, FS2, FS1, and yes, I did catch the majority of that game. I would say Roman Anthony looks like he belongs, especially those last two at-bats. It's a beautiful thing to watch. I'm a proponent for this tournament, WBC, and it's good to see the Red Sox succeeding and competing in this tournament.
So I really enjoyed the tournament, for what it is. I don't want to overrate it. There's it's not the Olympics. You're right. It's not the Olympics in the gold medal hockey game.
For us.
Right, but it could be something a lot closer to that. The problem with the World Baseball Classic is simply when it's played, which is March. I mean, you can't get the best pitchers.
It's tough
to show up in March. They're not going to.
Have that siesta in the middle of the season, like to make it like a summertime Olympic sport. It would be a tough ask every 4 years. I don't want to play baseball in November.
And Skubal's pitching tonight, but he's only going to pitch a couple innings, and then that's it, right? I mean, he's pretty much done.
Yeah, he said he was going to wave the white flag. To me, I know that they have their own limitations. It's understandable. It's tough. To your point, pitching is they got to figure out a way to get the stars in the mix, and you're never going to get rid of that gut feeling, that worry, because the pitchers. If something goes for the pitcher. Even something freak happening like 3 years ago with Edwin Diaz, and that was for my team in the celebration. Just it would be a bad look and a gut punch if it were to happen to a Red Sox player.
Yeah, but that exists in all of these international tournaments. But what I think these international tournaments have proven is that it's good for the sport. It's good for the health of the sport. The footage, Junior Caminero went deep for the DR last night, and it was just electric. It was awesome. The guy is going around third base, like you just did a big playoff home run. The buy-in's there from the players, which as a result is a really enjoyable product to watch as a fan. And and I think there's a lot of buy-in from Team USA too. I mean, I think there's been this attitude from the World Baseball Classic for a while that that's not as important to Team USA. It's more important to Japan and the Dominican to prove that they're on our level. Well, they keep winning the tournament. The United States has only won it once. And the last two tournaments, look at the lineup Team USA is fielding. Stacked. It is stacked. It's the best lineup they could possibly field.
To see Bregman playing second base too, it is another little gut punch. Wait
a minute, is Bregman playing second base tonight?
I want to say he has. I'll have to look into it. I don't know what the projections are going into tonight, but I've seen him slotted in as second base.
I need to. Tonight's starting lineup against Great Britain for the United States. No, Bregman's at third tonight. Here's your lineup. Roman Anthony's playing again. Schwarber, Bregman, Judge, Harper, Smith, Gunnar Henderson, Roman Anthony, Ernie Clement, Pete Crow Armstrong. And that is, by the way, that's their B lineup. Their A lineup was out there last night with Cal Raleigh with 60 home runs, batting sixth last night. So there's buy-in from the players, and they really care about it. But there just isn't enough buy-in from the pitchers, and I understand it. Because what pitcher are you going to get to really commit to this? Otani's playing for Team Japan, but he's not pitching this time around. So the solution is qualifying in March, because let's be honest, Brazil, Great Britain. There are a lot of countries that you're just going to roll through. There are 4 or 5 countries that you really want to watch. United States, Japan, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Venezuela's good, Holland's good. So I mean, if you like, those are like 6 teams that you really, really, really want to see. If you had, say, the semifinals and the finals instead of the All-Star game, just a week-long break where you play the World Baseball Classic and it's Team USA versus the Dominican.
I knew
or
you'd
Japan.
put on the commissioner's hat. I knew you'd do it. Thank you for that solution because I don't want to play in the mid-November, right?
And then Team USA is a 3-game series: Scooble for 7, Skeens for 7, Crochet for 7. It's pretty good. All right, I'm Matt McCarthy. Thanks to George Sepulveda for all his hard work today. I'm out of here. See ya.